Hey, what up everyone? I'm Sinnycool and this is EverQuest Project 1999. And today we are on the green server. On not any particular character, we're going to be going over we're going to rank every single class. We're going to rank every single class. There's 14 classes and I want to go over ranking them from my favorite to my least favorite. So it's not exactly like ranking the best to the worst or anything like that. I kind of want to frame it as like if we had a group, almost full group, and there's one spot left, and we already had everything covered, what we would want in that group, like in this hypothetical situation, or based on me playing the class and how I feel about the class, or like, just how I feel about classes in general. They join your group, or you're duoing with them, or trioing with them. Now, I want to rank all 14 classes from best to worst, or my favorite to my least favorite, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So hope you enjoy. All right, so let's start with my favorite class, which let's go back here. My favorite class, of course, is the Necromancer, and I'm sure y'all are surprised by that, right? So Necromancer, really good solo, really good in groups. I'm not much of a grouping necro, but I've had necros in my group on my shaman. And if they're played right, if you have a person that knows what they're doing as a necromancer in a group, which, it's not going to happen all the time because a lot of necros are solo, so a lot of them don't know how to be in a group. But when they do, it's like probably the second best caster you could have in your group. If we go over all the casters here, we have Enchanter, Magician, Necromancer, and Wizard. Other than Enchanter, what would be the other one you would pick if you just had you had a nice group, you only needed one slot left, you didn't have a Necro yet, you didn't have a Wizard yet, you didn't have a Magician yet, you already had an Enchanter, or maybe you didn't. What would be the class that you would pick if you had people, looking for group and you had all the melee, you had maybe get an off tank, another healer? What would you go with? I would, if I knew the Necromancer was good in a group, I would go with the Necromancer, especially if I already had an Enchanter. But just awesome soloers. They can do root rotting. They can do pet fighting. They can do fear kiting. When you they're very hard to kill. You can feign death. You can root and run away, or root and gate. You can just snare them and run out of there. Especially if you get J boots. They don't have any kind of way, no speed. I always talk about movement speed, and it's one of the things that, especially early game, that will annoy you if you don't have any type of way to increase your movement speed. But if you can get some J boots on a Necromancer, it's like the best of both worlds. It's awesome. So you don't have to look for a group on a P99 server where maybe there's not as many people sometimes in certain areas. You can solo. And when you're in a group, I feel like they're really, really good. So it's my favorite Necro. I mean, I took it to 60. You guys were going to know probably that I was going to pick a Necromancer. Like, I can jump on my Necro even at 60 and have fun. I can charm. You can charm undead. That's a whole other thing. I'm probably going to forget things that I like about the Necro. So, Dark Elf, nice with the Ultra Vision, even though we're not talking about races in this one. But I chose Dark Elf because I was already evil. I think that's a good thing to do, either like Dark Elf or Ixar, since you're already evil anyway. You might as well go all the way. And with the Dark Elf, you got the Ultra Vision. You're very hard to kill. You have 3, 4 different ways to solo. You're good in groups. You have the corpse summon if people lose their corpses, which has happened. It's not something that never happens. I've had that happen in Tower Frozen Shadow. I've had it happen in Freeport, where I've lost my corpse on a boat in the water. Like, it's something you might need eventually, is to, call up a Necromancer and have them summon your corpse. So, Necro is my favorite. Hard to kill, easy to solo, good in groups, and just hard to kill. I mean, it's one of my favorites. So, went to 60 with it. All right, my second favorite. Man, we're gonna look at this here, and you're probably not gonna be surprised again. I feel Enchanter is my second favorite, and I'm only level 36, but having lots of fun with the Enchanter. When you start out, you're kind of using your little crappy pet, but it's still kind of fun. And then as you go and you get Breeze, you got Clarity. As a caster, one of the things other than movement speed and vision is like your mana regeneration. And you get to have Breeze and Clarity and cast it on yourself whenever you want. And many other things. There's ways to steal mana from enemies, and You can increase your mana pool, and you can do it for other people as well. So if you don't have an Enchanter in your group, you're probably looking for an Enchanter unless you have a Bard or something. Everybody loves Clarity. Everybody loves Aug, Alacrity, all the speed. Melees love the speed buffs. You know, casters love the mana buffs. And I think Enchanter is my second favorite. Charm fighting is one of the most interesting things you can do in this game. If you're bored of everything else, try charm fighting. You're taking one enemy and having it fight another enemy, and then you're getting experience for both of them. Or you're grabbing a really powerful enemy, giving them some weapons, souping them all up, and keeping them as a pet. That's fun too. It's kind of just fun to see what you can beat charming, because it's probably the strongest way to solo in the game is charm fighting, and you can take down some really cool stuff, some really difficult stuff, get some really cool, you know, camps, and hunt some awesome expensive gear. And yeah, I think Enchanter is, you can change into a bunch of different like illusions. You can be a elemental, a tree, you can be every single race. Yeah, I just think Enchanter is cool to crawl through dungeons solo, and you're wanted in every single group. If they don't have an Enchanter, they will bring you into the group. You have no trouble finding groups at all, and you have pretty much no trouble soloing. You do die a lot when you solo, and you can die a lot when you're in groups because you're mesmerizing, which is fun. That's super fun too, like crowd control. You think of the Holy Trinity, like the tank, the healer, the melee. Well, in this game, there's crowd control, and crowd control is super fun. It's like a different way to play the game. So if you've already been a tank, you've already been a healer, you've already been a melee, you can try an Enchanter or a Bard or something, and you can try crowd control in groups, or you can try charm fighting. Like it's cool to, you know, extend the life of the game by doing something you've never done before, and it's super powerful and really fun. So basically, you know, the clarities, the speed buffs, the charm fighting, the mesmerizing, just how like everybody wants you in your group, in their group, and even if you can't find a group, you can solo, and you can solo in places other people can't solo. You can take control of mobs that are super powerful and have them fight each other. I love Enchanter. It's my second favorite. All right, third favorite. What would it be? Kind of doing this on the fly here, so bear with me. Sometimes this is going to be like something I've played almost every class. Like if we go down to all the classes, we got Enchanter, I've played it. Magician, I've played a little bit. Necromancer. Oh, I had a magician friend though, like a duo that was a magician. So I've been in groups with these classes. Like some of them I haven't played extensively, and I might miss things and not say things that you would say as that class. If you're like a level 60 magician, you're gonna know things that I don't know. But it's just a video, my opinion type of thing, my favorites type of thing. So don't, you know, dwell on that too much. Wizard, I've played a little bit. Cleric, I had. I'm considering WoW kind of a little bit here. Like I had a 60 priest on WoW, so I know a little bit about. And I've had a bunch of clerics in my groups, and I've watched clerics on YouTube. And Druid, all my friends were druids. I've played a druid through my friends. I've had lots of druid in my groups and stuff like that. Shaman, I have a shaman, 54 shaman. So we got that. Bard, one of my best friends was a bard. I've had bards in my groups. I've started a bard, flute man here. We got monk. I played a monk back in the day on the original EverQuest to like 50 or so. Ranger, haven't really played much Rangers. I've watched them on YouTube. I've had them as duos. I've had them in groups. Rogue, I played on WoW, like mostly a PvP rogue, but I did play a rogue on WoW. Paladin, probably the one I've played the least is Paladin. But I know the gist of it. It's like a cleric mixed with a tank. You got stuns. You got the lay on hands. Shadow Knight I played on, wasn't EverQuest, but it was EverQuest Online Adventures, and I went to max level with a Shadow Knight there, and I have a Shadow Knight here. Let's see, right there, bang. And Warrior, I played a Warrior. That was my main back in the day in the original EverQuest, and I took it to max level. So I know a lot about a lot of them, and there's a couple that I don't know as much about. So what would be my third favorite? So we got Necro as my first, Enchanter's my second. What would be my third? Man, you can't beat a bard in a group, can you? But you can't beat the fun of being a monk yourself. Shadow Knight's pretty fun too, and good to have in a group as well. This might be my next three. Crap. I think I'm gonna shout out the bard. Not that I want to play a bard. Just like anytime you can have a bard in a group, it feels like so. It's awesome. Like you are in a group and you're just chugging along, and then a bard joins the group, and they can do pretty much anything that you need them to do. You know, they can give you mana, they can give you HP, they can crowd control, they can charm. They can do so many things that it's fun to have a bard in your group or as a duo or in a trio or anything like that. And if you could figure out how to twist spells and do all that business, it's probably fun to play a bard too. You can swarm kite. You have lots of movement speed pretty early. Um, it's just a fun class. You can do it's a jack of all trades. So you can sit there and be meleeing, you can sit there and be trying to heal and buff and crowd control. Like you can do everything in the game. So how is that not cool? And every you want a bard in your group too. And bards get I've just said enough, I feel. I've said enough. One of my first duos was a bard and it was so fun because I never was lacking mana and they could switch between spells and it was nice. I think Bard's my third favorite, though I've never really played one. I just feel like the want of having it in a group or a duo is just pretty strong, because they can do everything. So Bard maybe would be my third. So we got Necro 1, Enchanter 2, Bard 3, and you probably wouldn't have expected that because I don't really like playing a Bard. What would be number 4? Notice I'm not saying Shaman yet. That's the only one where I kind of like got to 54 and I did not. I'm gonna continue, but I don't know. Jeez Louise. So we still got Magician, Wizard, Cleric, Druid, Shaman, the healing classes. I mean, of course you want a healer in your group and everything, and it is nice to have a Shaman. Bard, Monk, Ranger, Rogue, Paladin, Shadow Knight, Warrior. I think I'm going to say Shadow Knight. I like Shadow Knight, so I'm going to go with Shadow Knight. Where's Thuggish? There he is. Shadow Knight is fun, and it's nice to have in a group. So Shadow Knights can solo. They're probably the best at soloing as a tank. If you want to have a tank and you want to be able to solo, I would say Shadow Knight is the way to go. Not that they're going to be able to do like what a Necromancer can do or any other soloing class, but they do have snares, right? They can fear kite, kind of, right? And they're like their own pet. And they do have a pet too, so it's pretty cool. I think eventually you can fear kite, and then instead of like sitting down and watching your pet do the hitting from the back as they're feared, you could be there with your pet doing the hitting while they're feared. So, and in a group, you get to pool. You have Feign Death. You are a pretty good tank because you have spells you can cast to keep aggro and all that. They might be the best at keeping. They might be one of the best tanks in the game. Like I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I always thought Warrior was the best, but then sometimes people say Shadow Knight. Sometimes people say Paladin. But I don't know. That's probably my fourth favorite. Is that what it was? Necro, Enchanter, Bard, Shadow Knight. Yeah, it's probably my fourth favorite would be Shadow Knight. I really want to play one, but I feel like it's going to be a little bit too similar to my Necro, so I'm kind of waiting to play it. But yeah, you get to be a big old stinky troll or ogre usually. You get to have, if you're a troll, you have the regen. If you're an ogre, you have the frontal stun immunity. Just being able to feign death as a tank, it helps you pool. I don't know, man. It's just fun. You have spells, you have a pet, you're a tank, and you get to pool. Pooling is so fun too. Like, you're a tank, but you get to go out there and get the enemies. It's so much more fun than being like a healer and just sitting there and waiting for things to come to you. You get to go out there and choose what you bring back to the group. And if you bring back way too much, you just killed your group. And if you're constantly pulling and bringing back singles or doubles or whatever the group is wanting, then they love it. Like, you get to be the hero. If you're taunting and keeping everything on you, you're the hero. If you're saving the healer, you're the hero. So you're pretty much the hero of the group, and you control how much and how fast and all that. So I really like Shadow Knight, and I like being a tank. I was a warrior back in the day, but I almost wish I was a Shadow Knight. So we'll say that's number 4. Number 5, I'm gonna say Monk. I like Monk 5th best. I don't think I have a Monk on here yet, but monks are fun, especially if you can twink it a little bit and you know what you're doing, which I don't. I did have one back in the day, but it's been such a long time that I don't remember. I just know I was a super good melee damage. You can pool, you can feign death. I think pooling's the main thing with the monk. Like I know you got to keep your weight down, and that's kind of like with the bard. You always get scared by having to twist spells, and then I'm sure once you start doing it, it's not as bad. But it's like the initial thing that kind of scares you is that you got to twist spells, and then with the monk, the initial thing that scares you is that you got to keep your weight low, so you can't really be looting. You can't wear all kinds of like armor or anything. You kind of just have to have your weapon and then some really light armor and just never pick anything up. So that's the thing that scares I think most people away from the monk is that you got to keep your weight low. But it's not that bad, I guess, and it's probably a character you should start like as not your first character. Maybe get yourself like a super awesome weapon and maybe a super awesome like regen breastplate or something like that. And they could solo too. They could solo because they can feign death, they can mend. Um, I get all kinds of cool karate kicks and all that. I mean, it's fun to be a monk. It's pretty fun. Just the pooling part is fun, and then they're pretty much able, like they're the melee that can solo. Like a rogue is probably not going to solo, and a monk with good gear can solo. I feel with the mend and the feign death, you can do it, especially as an Ixar monk probably. But monks are fun basically, and you can somewhat solo, and groups pretty much do want you if they don't have a pooler yet, and lots of damage. And I don't know, I haven't played one in a long time, so I don't have a ton to say about it. But I think monk is super fun and probably my fifth favorite. Number six. Let's see. I'm gonna have to go with warrior because I played one back in the day, and warrior's pretty fun. You get to pool, like I was saying earlier. Pooling is so much fun if you've never done it before. You're probably thinking, oh, you don't know what you're missing if you haven't pooled like Karnor's Castle or somewhere in Lower Guck like the Assassin Supplier or Frenzy or something down there. Just pooling is super fun, and you're not just sitting there waiting for somebody to come back with stuff. You're not just like there's not as much downtime as a warrior. You're going to be going, 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 going. So if you're tired of sitting in a group and waiting for somebody to bring something back, try a warrior. You get to go out and pool, unless they have a monk in the group, unless they have something else that's able to pool a little bit better, maybe a bard, maybe a monk. If you're the pooler and you're the tank as a warrior, it's pretty fun. And then you get to keep everybody alive, you get to taunt, you get to be super beefy, you want to take all the hits, you want all this plate armor, you want to be super big with a bunch of plate armor, bunch of HP. The healer's focusing on healing you. You're focusing on taunting and keeping everything on you, and it's just like it's more skillful than you would think to be a tank and a pooler at the same time and all that. So warrior's super fun, and it sounds boring sometimes, but it's not boring. It's really fun if you're doing it right, and you get to do all the things that you would normally get to do as a warrior. So big old warrior troll or big old warrior barbarian or ogre or something. It's super fun to be a warrior. I've been in groups with warriors with just so much HP, it's crazy. Like, they don't even barely need a heal. So, warriors are pretty fun. So, I would say warrior would be next. So, we had Necromancer, we had Enchanter, we had Bard, we had Shadow Knight, we had Monk, and we had Warrior. So, what do we got left here? We got Mage, Wizard, all the healers, most of the melees there. Well, no, not really. We just have Ranger and Rogue. And then Paladin. Next up, I would say probably Cleric. Just because you can get in groups so easy. Everybody wants a Cleric. And it's fun to heal sometimes. Like, it's more fun than you would think. You're watching bars and you're healing bars a lot of the time. But just keeping people alive is pretty fun. And then, you want one in a group. So we got to think about that part too. Resurrecting. You can charge people to resurrect. Everybody's looking for a res at some point, so everybody wants a cleric. Everybody wants a cleric in their group. It's the best healer in the game. Sometimes it is just fun to chill and sit there and meditate and pop up and heal every once in a while. And you're wanted in raid super, super bad. If you ever wanted to go on a raid, I think cleric might be one of the top things that raids might want. I mean, if I'm thinking kind of more on the WoW, because I didn't get to raid too much in this game, but I remember like they wanted me bad in raids on WoW. And I had a 60 priest, like I said, and I've been a healer. You can give super good buffs. Everybody loves the cleric buffs. Just the resurrect, the buffs, the healing. Watching the bars, it's more exciting than you actually think, but also it's kind of chill. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like cleric would be my next, just because I actually took one to max level, and got to raid and stuff with one. So that's just my personal list here. So all right, what would be next? Even though I don't like them very often, like it's 50-50. 50% of the time they're really cool, and 50% of the time they're a-holes, and they're probably the most a-hole class in the entire game, and that's just because 50% of them are weirdos. But I would say Druid would be my next. Can solo, can teleport, has so. Um, in a group, they're decent. I mean, if you don't have a Cleric or a Shaman, and you have a Druid, you're probably pretty good. Like, you're always wanting a healer. So if a Druid's looking for group and you don't have a healer, you're going to take them. They have cool buffs. Just the teleporting. You can get on. It's one of the best classes to do as your first class because you don't have to worry about movement speed. You get that pretty soon. You could turn into a wolf eventually, right? Um, you could teleport around. Like if you want to see the world, be a druid. If you want to be able to solo or be in a group, be a druid. If you want to do everything in the game, pretty much be a druid. If you want to make some money and it's your first character, be a druid. And I haven't played a druid, but I've played my friends' druids that were like level 50 something, and they let me just I played one for like a week or two, and I was like kiting and all that. And let's go to the druid on here so you guys have something different to look at. Kind of a podcast style thing today, but most of the time I see like a halfling druid, don't you? Maybe a male. It's usually what they look like right there. I've grouped with a druid. I've had a duo be a druid, and it's just nice to be able to get teleports and movement speed and damage shields right, and then they can solo by kiting and whatnot. So druid's cool because it's kind of like the necro. It's a really good first class to get to use when you don't have any plat, and you can make plat. And then you can solo or be in a group. You're kind of hard to kill. You can teleport, all that. So I think Druid would be my next one. Even though there's lots of weirdo Druids out there that kind of soured it for me. Or else maybe Druid would be up higher for me there. Alright, we got Magician, Wizard, Shaman, Ranger, Rogue, Paladin left. So what do I like the best out of those? Paladin, Rogue, Ranger, Shaman. Wizard, Magician. I'm going to say Wizard. I think Wizards are cool. I think they can solo. They can teleport. They can hit for massive damage with their nukes. I haven't really played one. I started one, but I haven't got super far on them yet. Only level 5, but I've been wanting to start one. Start a Wizard. I thought it'd be interesting to start a Wizard. But yeah, you get to do the AoE, like, kiting, where you can snare, and then you just hit them with like a big old AoE, like you gather up 3 or 4 enemies, and then you like hit them with this big old AoE. You can solo, you can teleport. You're not like super wanted in groups, but I think they're fun to have in a group. They stand up every once in a while and boom, hit with a giant spell, and then they're meditating a lot of the time. So it's a good one if you're just like trying to chill in a group and like you don't want to be super active. Like a shaman is super active. The buffs are always going down, and you're redoing buffs, and you're healing, and you're slowing, and you're speeding, and like shaman is super active if you want to have a super active class in a group, or like be the pooler or be the enchanter or something. But if you want to have a chill time, be a cleric or be a wizard, because you're going to be like meditating most of the time. But when you do your thing, dude, it is powerful. So you might be meditating a lot, but when you jump up and cast a spell, bang, you knock them down. And when you're a cleric and you're sitting down and all of a sudden you stand up and cast a complete heal, everybody loves it. So it's kind of like concentrated fun. You're not going to be having fun all the time. You're going to be meditating quite a bit. But when you're having fun, it's like some of the best fun in the game and some of the most powerful fun in the game. Like you might be sitting and meditating for a while between kiting, like AoE kiting. But when you're doing it, dude, it's some of the funnest stuff in the game, I bet. And just hitting for those giant nukes. I think even on raids they want wizards, because I guess sometimes they need them to teleport certain places, and sometimes they do want them in groups and whatnot, in raids and stuff. It's not like the worst class to have in a group. It's just not the first one you think of either. So that's why it's kind of in the middle for me. I've always wanted to try it. Yeah, you just get to. It probably shouldn't be your first character, is all. What's next? So we did Enchanter, Necro, Wizard, Cleric, Druid. I guess I'm gonna have to shout out the Shaman next. I don't know. I just had so much. It's not bad. It's not bad. They can solo. They're wanted in groups. They can solo. They can speed. They can slow. They can root rot. They have a little pet. They got the movement speed. You think it'd be everything I'm looking for, but it just feels like, I don't know. You can't, when you're soloing, you need like so much gear, and that's always the thing people say about Shaman is you gotta have really good gear to really, and you gotta have enough money to get the spells that they have, a lot of powerful spells at the end when you're close to max level, like Torpor and stuff like that. You gotta have either a way to get it or a bunch of plat to get it, because that's what they really, really need to be as powerful as they can be. And just gear too. So it should never be your first character, and I made it as my second character, and I think that was a mistake. I think I should have done either Druid or Enchanter second, and then maybe made the Shaman my third or fourth. But I just wanted to try it because I know they're really good at soloing single targets, and one of the best in the game. I'm not saying they're bad or anything, it's just like the enjoyment of the Shaman wasn't all the way there for me. Like soloing wasn't as powerful as I thought it would be, and then in the group it was just so crazy and hectic and active that it was like too much for me. And it wasn't like fun active, it was like rebuffing active and stuff like that. It was more like you're sitting there on timers trying to keep everybody buffed, or you're healing here and there. And it's not like the Cleric where you can just sit down and chill and then all of a sudden pop up and heal for a big old heal spell. It's like you're regenning and you're healing and you're spot healing and then you're rebuffing, and it's just crazy. So if you want like a crazy active time on the game, play a Shaman in a group. It's nuts. And you never have enough mana. And candy dancing and all that. Like you gotta really know how to know what you're doing with the candy dancing and the cannibalize, and I don't know, man. It was just, it's fun. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm gonna keep going with this guy. I'm gonna get it to 60, and I'm gonna try it. But I'm gonna like try to get some more plat, get it some better gear, and then go forward. I'm not gonna like force through this double hell with the crappy gear I got right now. So I think I'm just on the back burner for me. And it was kind of like good and bad. And sometimes it was really fun, and sometimes it was just hectic, frantic, never have enough mana, always rebuffing, and I felt like that's all I was doing the whole time. So, I don't know. I just wouldn't recommend it as your first character is all. But you are really wanted in groups, and you can solo, and you got the movement speed, you got tons of awesome cool buffs. You do have to sit there and like buff yourself up for 10 minutes before you can fight anything, but I mean you don't have to, but it feels like that. So it almost feels like you put on all these awesome buffs and you get big and tough, but then you got to meditate for like 5 minutes or candy dance for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And then by the time you're standing up and fighting something, you get to get 2, 3, 4, 5 kills, and then you got to rebuff again. And it's just kind of annoying. Like the Shaman is kind of annoying to play, is all I'm saying. Crazy. And then you're candy dancing in the group while in between everything else. It's nuts. It's nuts. In between timers and buffing and healing and slowing and speeding and all that stuff. And you're trying to meditate. You're candy dancing too. So you cannot take your fingers off of the mouse. You can't take your fingers off the keyboard. You're just going 24/7. So if that's what you're looking for, go with the Shaman. And if you want to solo as a Shaman, make sure you're super twinked out. I mean, you can do it without being super twinked out, but that's what people are going to say, and it's just the reality. So that's how I feel. And if you're a Shaman out there, I'm sure you're going to have stuff to say, but it's just how I feel as a 54 Shaman and without super twinking it out. So I had a lot to say about the Shaman there. All right, what do we got left? And I'm probably going to forget what order I put everything in, but hopefully y'all are keeping track, or I can go back through the video and put it in the pinned comment or something like that. So we got Magician left. It's the only caster I haven't said yet. We got, I've said all the Priest classes. We got Ranger and Rogue. So you can see what my least favorites are so far. Magician, Ranger, Rogue, Paladin. Those are the 4 we got left, pretty sure. So what's my favorite out of those? We got Magician, we got Ranger, we got Rogue, and we got Paladin. If I was going to pick one of those to play, I guess I'd pick Ranger. They get so eventually. They can snare right. They can heal a little bit. It's like everything they do is kind of like a bard but weaker. And they don't have like the mesmerize. I guess they got harmony and like charm animal and stuff like that. But they're just like a weaker druid mixed with a bard or something like that. I think they're supposed to be like a druid mixed with like a warrior, but like a weak warrior that's a weak druid, but they have some of each. But it's more like kind of like a weird bard that doesn't have all the cool stuff a bard has, but mixed with a druid kinda. So I don't know, I don't really like hybrid classes that much. Rangers, I know you can like bow kite, and that's kind of cool, and you get that's fun. You have spells, that's cool. You're just never the best melee. Unless you're super twinked out. Like, I'm sure there's a ranger out there who thinks they're the best melee in the game, but they're super twinked out with, like, raid gear and all that. But, I don't know, I just never felt... I think ranger... Like, a rogue would be... Rogue would be fun, but you're just never going to be able to solo. And I know that's not, like, the only thing in the game, but it's something. It's, like, a big part of the game these days, especially. Paladin just sounds kind of boring. I don't know. And then mage has always been... I think it's fun. I love pet classes, but just everything else about the mage, I don't know. So I'm going to say ranger. And then after that, let's go with... I always thought it'd be fun to play a rogue, but you got to be in a group. You probably should be super twinked. It'd probably be fun, but you got to be... You're always... It's weird. It's so specific to be a rogue. I don't know. And then magician, it's like... You got cool pets, but you have no way to, like... If something goes wrong, like you're in trouble, you're in big trouble, mister. You're screwed. Like you don't have a way to like root or keep them in a spot, you know? Like if you get in trouble, your pet dies, you're pretty much done. Unless you can resummon a pet or something. Paladin just never seemed that fun. The lay on hands is cool, maybe for a hardcore challenge, like not dying type of challenge. I would play a paladin maybe, but yeah, I guess I'm gonna go with rogue just because it would be super fun to play in a group, I guess. You can sneak around. You can sneak around. You get to play a little sneaky rogue. You can make a little cute dwarf or a gnome or something, or a little halfling rogue, you know. You can look like a little cute guy. You can sneak around. You can lockpick. You can backstab. You're pretty good if you're super twinked out. You can pretty much be the best melee in the group sometimes. I'm sure they're welcome on raids. Yeah. Rogue sounds really cool and it sounds really fun, and I had one too. I had one on WoW. I had like a 55 rogue on WoW that I was PvPing with, and I was basically a cleanup crew. I would sneak around and wait for somebody to get to like half health, and then I would freaking stun lock them and kill them. It was fun. It's fun in PvP and like WoW and stuff, but we're talking about EverQuest here, and in EverQuest there's not, unless you play on the red server or something, you're just pretty much looking for a group 75% of the time as a rogue, I'm guessing. Unless it's your 5th character and you have all the best equipment in the game, maybe you could squeak out some solo missions. But most of the time, for most rogues in most situations, you're just looking for a group 75% of the time. You might as well have another character that you can log into while you're looking for a group on your rogue or something. So I don't know. Rogue just never appealed to me because it felt like, these days especially with the way the game is, you pretty much have to be able to solo, or you have to be super wanted in a group, like an Enchanter, a Cleric, a Bard, something like that. You have to either be like, it's easy for you to get into a group, or you can solo. So, I'll say Rogue next though, because I had so much fun on my WoW Rogue, and it's just so specific. You gotta be in a group, you gotta be behind the mob, you gotta probably be twinked. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about it wrong, but you let me know in the comments. All right, we're down to Paladin and Magician. I'm going to say Paladin just because of you could do a hardcore challenge with it, maybe. You got the lay on hands. If you get into trouble, you can... I think it's a full heal, and at least at first it's a full heal, but it's like a giant heal that you get like once a day or something like that. I've never played one, so bear with me here. Maybe that's part of the problem. I know you can stun. I know it's a decent tank. You can heal a little bit. It's like a cleric mixed with a warrior. You would take it if you needed a tank. I would definitely take a paladin if I needed a tank. But it just never seemed that appealing to me. It seemed like I'd rather play a Shadow Knight. I'd rather play a warrior. I would rather play a cleric. I'd rather play a druid or a necro. I'd rather play almost anything. Unless I'm doing a specific hardcore challenge, self-found or something, hardcore challenge, where, you know, I wanted to, you know, not die. Like, I'm in trouble, oops, lay on hands and run to the zone, you know? But, I don't know. Being a tank is fun if you're the puller and whatnot, so it could be fun, and you're probably wanted in groups and stuff, so I probably should have put it ahead of Rogue, but Rogue was so fun on WoW, and it's super fun, so I'm just giving it a lot of points for being fun if you're in the right situation. It's like concentrated fun if you find that specific fun situation with the Rogue. It's really, really fun if you can find it. But the Paladin... if you're the tank, if you're the puller, it's probably fun. Or if you're doing a hardcore thing, it's probably fun. But it just seems kind of boring and, I don't know, and weak. Like, it's not as good as Shadow Knight or Warrior to me. I'm sure there's some paladins out there that are crushing it. I've seen it before in, like, guilds and whatnot. Like, the guild leader was a paladin, and he was all, like, a flaming sword with all kinds of golden armor. And, like, I'm sure it can be fun, but you might have to get tons of awesome gear. Alright, I guess Magician is my least favorite, so... I don't really know why, for real. I just feel like you just don't have. I don't know. There's no movement. Once again, no way to. You're going to be a slow, plotting kind of soloer that nobody wants in a group. It's kind of weird. It's no. You can solo, but not that good. Not as good as a Necro. Not as good as a Druid or an Enchanter or a Bard. Like it's like a solo class that isn't that great at soloing. And I'm sure there's cool magicians out there. I've always been curious about like having a Earth Elemental pet, fighting a tough mob, and then the strat being that the pet dies and you resummon the pet. And that's like you're thinking about you're knowing you're going to have to do that, and that's your strategy. Not that it like happens all of a sudden and then you're like scrambling around. I'm like thinking like, what if you had an Earth Elemental pet? It's rooting, at least a little bit. It's fighting something. It's probably super slow, but I'm sure you could get some cool kills like that. You resummon your pet, and that's your whole strategy. Keep resummoning it. I know it probably takes like a lot of mana and a big long cast to do it, but you're planning for it and making it happen. Then you get to summon food and drink and all that. You got Call of the Hero. I just can't really think of any. You're like a weak maid, you're a weak wizard, or you're like you know, an enchanter can have a way cooler pet, way better pet. I feel like Necros can make their pets better by fear kiting and stuff like that to where they don't have to get beat on. Um, I don't know. I just never was that interested in a mage and nothing they do. I feel like you're gonna die. And I like pet classes, but I'd rather be an enchanter and I can get whatever pet I want out there in the world. Or I'd rather be a necro who has like skeletons and specters and some cool pets like that and can fear kite and keep them alive than having just a little lump of dirt or a little, you know, hemorrhoid or a little drop of water. I'm sure they get cooler and cooler and cooler, but I don't know. I don't even know if I've ever seen a 60 mage. I don't know. So mage is probably my least favorite, and maybe it's just me never, it's maybe it's ignorance. But anyway, it is what it is. That's what I think. Mage is my least favorite. So if I can, maybe I could try to do this real quick. Okay, Necromancer was my favorite. Enchanter was my second favorite. I said Bard was my third favorite just because I feel like you always want them in your group. You always want them as a duo. You always want them as a trio. They can charm, all that good stuff. So Bard was my third. Fourth was a Shadow Knight, I think. Fifth was a Monk. Might have been Cleric. Sixth was Cleric, maybe. Seventh was Druid, I think. Anyway, we went through the video, and you guys can see what order. I'll put them in order in the description or something, or in the pinned comment. I don't want to say it wrong. But yeah, as far as my least favorite, it was Magician, Paladin, and Rogue, I think. Magician, Paladin, and Rogue. So that was what I really wanted to say in this video. What my least favorite were, and what I'm probably not going to play anytime soon. And it's going to be Magician, Paladin, and Rogue. Unless I try to do a hardcore type of deal, which I might pick a Paladin if I do that. But that would be the only situation where I'd play a Paladin. Because I'd rather play a Shadow Knight or a Warrior first. And then as far as the Magician goes, I'd rather play a Wizard first. Or get my Enchanter to 60. As far as Rogue goes, I'd rather play a Monk first. Or try a Bard first or something like that. So I'm looking at all the categories, and those are my least favorite in each category. Magician's my least favorite in the Caster category. Shaman ended up being my least favorite in the Priest category, even though I don't even like Druids that much. But shout out to the Druids for all the things they can do. My least favorite in the Melee category was Rogue, but Ranger was quick, like right behind it. I'm not super enthusiastic about Ranger either. Then Tanks, my least favorite was Paladin. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I know we're just looking at the character creation screen, but I'm moving. I'm moving like 99.9% chance at the moment. I'm signing a lease tomorrow, and we got to pack all this crap up. It's been stressful, like trying to find a place, and I'm trying to get you a video here, and I hope you understand. And I still owe you another one for this month, so I might sit down and try to make that other one today too. But yeah, bear with me. We'll get back into the dungeons and the crawling and the grouping and the necro and the enchanter and all that cool stuff and all the starting A series characters. And I got some other ideas for the channel for EverQuest, so it's not going away. It's going to be every single Wednesday, but just bear with me for the next like month or two until I can get into my new place and like get settled in, which is probably going to take 2 or 3 months actually, but definitely by 2025, we'll be crushing it in the swing of things again, just cruising. So, but for the next 2 months or so, I'm going to be distracted, stressed out, and busy. So, you might have to get a video like this every once in a while, and like the Thurgoden video last week. But yeah, like, share, subscribe, consider joining helps a lot. Tell your good about the channel comment below. Put what you think below. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe Enchanter's not one of the best classes. Maybe Necro's not one of the funnest classes. Maybe Bard's not. Maybe Magician's awesome. Maybe Paladin's awesome. I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments. Maybe I said something wrong. But it's all just based on my experiences. I'm not saying I know everything about the game. And I haven't even played some of these classes. I've just grouped with them. I kind of know what I know about them, and that's how I feel. And this is kind of an opinionated list here. So, take it easy on me. Say it nicely, please. But if you have any corrections or any opinions about your favorite classes or anything I got wrong, put it in the comments. But try not to be a douchebag. All right, have a good one. You're the best. Peace out.